Identity management software does a great job providing functions like single sign-on and provisioning for internal applications. The benefits in terms of user experience, cost savings, and improved security are clear. However, the world is moving rapidly to external SaaS applications like Salesforce.com. Unfortunately, traditional enterprise-focused identity products don't work well with SaaS. The result can be a return to the bad old days where users face multiple logins and passwords which they have to enter by hand, and administrators having to provision Salesforce.com accounts by hand. From a security perspective, orphaned Salesforce.com accounts can still allow access to sensitive customer information, and anytime a user sees a login screen in their web browser, there is a risk that they are being phished. Fortunately, there is a better way: Ping Federate from Ping Identity. Ping Federate is a standalone secure internet single sign-on application that works with your infrastructure as well as with Salesforce.com. It gives your users single sign-on and your administrators automated provisioning, just like with your internal applications. And it can help keep your valuable customer data from walking out the door. So how does secure internet single sign-on for Salesforce work with Ping Federate? Well, the first thing you do is install Ping Federate itself. Ping Federate is software that you can download from the internet and install literally in about 15 minutes. You then configure a Ping Federate integration kit that works with your existing identity infrastructure. It might be Windows and Active Directory, it might be an LDAP directory, it might be a commercial or a homegrown identity management system. And then finally, you set up the Ping Federate Salesforce connector, which integrates with the Salesforce.com provisioning and SSO APIs. Now, the first problem that Ping Federate addresses is account provisioning. As great as SaaS is, one of its drawbacks is that each SaaS provider tends to have its own directory where it keeps its account information, and Salesforce.com is no exception. This potentially duplicates work for the administrator because not only do they have to maintain their own directory, they also have to provision and deprovision the same users in the Salesforce directory. Ping Federate eliminates all this extra work. Here's how. First, you go into your existing directory and you create a group or a filter that's going to contain your Salesforce users. Second, you add, modify, and delete users into your directory using your existing directory management techniques. Chances are this is something that someone is already doing, hence this doesn't represent any additional work. Now, the great thing is when I make a change in my home directory here, Ping Federate automatically makes the exact same change over at Salesforce.com in their directory. Hence, all that duplicated work is eliminated. Furthermore, Ping Federate is smart enough to know that Salesforce.com never actually deletes a user. So when I delete a user from my home directory, say a sales rep has left the company, that same user gets deactivated over here on the Salesforce side. This keeps the user from going home, downloading your customer list, and giving it to your competitor. So now that we've provisioned our accounts, we're ready to give our users direct access to Salesforce without requiring them to log in again. This can actually happen two different ways depending on whether the user has already authenticated onto your local network or not. So in my first scenario, I have a user who is already on your local network. When they click on a link in their portal to go out to Salesforce.com, what happens behind the scenes is information about them is communicated to Salesforce. Salesforce then creates a session for that user. The user gets redirected into that session, and they get direct access to Salesforce just as if it were a local application on the network. The second scenario is where I have a user who is not already on the network. Let's say this is a traveling user, they're connecting in from Starbucks. They go into their web browser, they type the Salesforce URL directly on the address line. What happens is, instead of going directly into Salesforce, they get redirected back to their home organization where they are asked to authenticate. So this represents the single sign-on. Once they do that, again, transparently information about them is communicated to Salesforce. Salesforce creates a web session. The user then gets redirected into that session, and they get direct access to the applications. So up till now, we've been talking about web browser access to Salesforce. Salesforce.com actually provides several different access methods for its users beyond the web browser itself. Ping Federate has you covered, though, because it provides SSO for 4 different Salesforce access methods. It works with desktop web browsers, like we've been talking about, mobile device web browsers, the Salesforce Outlook plugin, and emailed URLs. Now, this is where you create a report and you email that link to another Salesforce user. When the user clicks on that link, they're going to go right into the report without having to log in again. The other thing to note is that Ping Federate supports both Salesforce's proprietary delegated authentication SSO API and its new SAML SSO interface. So what are the benefits to Ping Federate for Salesforce? Well, first of all, users love the direct access. After all, who wants to log in again just to get to their to-do list? Also, studies have shown that SSO improves usage of SaaS applications like Salesforce. Secondly, the administrators love the eliminated work. So fewer passwords means fewer password resets, and automated provisioning means no additional work at all. And of course, eliminated work means lower operating costs. Then there are security benefits. Ping Federate shuts the door on those orphaned users. It reduces the risk of phishing attacks, and it also eliminates the security risks and costs associated with proprietary SSO implementations. And then finally, Ping Federate is not just for Salesforce. It's based on SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, which is an industry standard SSO protocol. Ping Federate works with any service provider that is SAML enabled, and that's a list that's growing rapidly.